Hello everyone, are you ready to feel the roar one last time in the DTM season 2022? As tradition has it, we're at the Hockenheimring. We've got perfect weather, blue skies, not a single cloud in the sky. We're expecting full house and we're excited because this final showdown is as exciting as it possibly could be, because theoretically it's still open for 4 drivers, but surely it will be one of these 4. But Sheldon van der Linde is leading the pack, and this young man, Lucas Auer, is only 2 points behind Sheldon. And then, of course, we also have René Rast, and mathematically speaking, it would also still be possible for Mirko Bortolotti. But our eyes are on Sheldon and on Lucas, that's for sure. And this qualifying is going to be so crucial. So let's do it. Let's get started. Here's your qualifying. Enjoy.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Hockenheimring. It's beautiful, as Verena said. Blue skies, but it is colder today, crisper today, and that will affect the track conditions. So they might have to work on the setup and tweak the setup a little bit, because it's definitely the coldest it's been any point this weekend that the cars have been on track. The track temperature is 13 degrees, the air temperature is 11 degrees, so around about 6 or 7 degrees cooler than it has been in all of the other sessions. So Lucas Auer with his second victory of the season yesterday, closing that gap to just 2 points at the top of the championship table. René Rast is 21 points, the points leader, Sheldon van der Linde, and Mirko Bortolotti, who you see there, getting pumped up, ready to go, still smiling. Frustrating race yesterday, could have been much better for him, but the pit stop didn't work out, I'm afraid. Lost time there, and cost him a potential run at a podium finish. But just about hanging in there in the championship. He's 28 points behind.
Yesterday 17, so only 1 degree less than yesterday. And similar, very low wind, very low to no wind. So same as quali yesterday. Copy.
So René Rast on a mission. A lot of points to close up. There are 29 points still available, including the 3 that you can score for pole position in qualifying here. Then 25 points for a race win later, and a point if you get the fastest lap of the race as well. So Mirko Bortolotti's 28 behind. He has to be within 25 points of Sheldon van der Linde going into the race to have any mathematical chance. He can't tie with Sheldon van der Linde, because then it will go on count back of the most number of wins, and Sheldon's had 3, and Mirko hasn't won a race so far this season, so he can't possibly equal or better Sheldon's number of race wins. So the only way Mirko Bortolotti can stay in the championship fight is by getting pole position here now, scoring 3 points, and hoping that Sheldon van der Linde doesn't finish in the top 3 in qualifying. That would get him to within 25 points. He'd still then have to win the race, get the fastest lap, for Sheldon to get no points, and for others like Lucas Auer and René Rast to have a bad race as well. So there's still a chance, and they'll still keep fighting, they say, at the Grasser Racing team. Chris Hartley then to talk you through what is going to be, and we keep saying this, the most important qualifying session of the season so far, as Mirko Bortolotti gets his radio check. There's the reigning champion, the outgoing champion, Maxi Gutz, who's struggled with the car so far this weekend. And an update, most importantly, on the drivers that were involved, if you saw it, in the huge crash. In fact, there were several huge crashes yesterday, but the 2 in particular that brought about the red flags at Turn 8 yesterday, they are all generally okay. They were taken for checkups, but bruising and some bruising to the spine of one of the drivers, but there's nothing majorly seriously wrong, which is a massive relief. So our best wishes to all of those drivers that are involved in those big crashes yesterday. Thomas Preining and Dennis Olsen have both been ruled out on medical grounds anyway, but actually Thomas Preining's team, Team Bernard, were trying to get the car fixed, as outlandish as that seems, because it looked like it was completely irreparable. They were trying to get a new car, a new chassis, but then the news came through that Thomas had been ruled out on medical grounds anyway, and so they wouldn't be allowed to race. We're also going to be missing David Schumacher from today. Nick Cassidy had a bruised wrist. If you saw the race yesterday, he was in an unlucky position because Dennis Olsen's car, which had smashed into the barrier and was spinning back onto the circuit, well, his engine block came completely away from the car and actually hit the side of Nick's Ferrari, and a heavy hit that caused some damage to his wrist, but apparently I'm told he had an ice pack on it overnight and it's okay now, his wrist, but the car is irreparable. They actually had to get him out carefully he got the car back to the pit lane, but the team had to get him out of the car through the passenger side because the driver's door just was completely caved in from that impact. So we're going to be missing him. I don't think we're going to see Arjun Maini because his car was covered up in the garage. Didn't look like that was going to be going anywhere. He was involved in the initial incident on the very first lap of the race, which brought about the first safety car. And I don't think we're going to see Michael Grenier's car either. That was involved in one of the accidents on the restart where he got into a multi-car collision which involved Rolf in Eischen. There was another one taken to hospital for checkups, but Rolf is, we're told, okay. But Michael Grenier's car was in the garage about half an hour before I came up to the commentary box, had a look down the pit lane, and that was with the front still off, lots of components missing and nobody working on the car. So the race yesterday won.
And you can go.
By this man, Lucas Auer. At one point, he was about to become the championship leader at Sheldon van der Linde with a magnificent drive from 16th on the grid through all the carnage. Some great moves late on, including the really, really brave move under braking on Marco Wittmann. And then he passed Dev Gore, got through to second place, which was enough just to keep the championship lead. He also got the fastest lap of the race right at the end of the race as well. So 2 points the difference between them. Big qualifying coming up then, as Verena said, and also an update on the BOP, which has changed slightly for today. There's been some changes, so the Audis and the BMWs have stayed exactly as they were yesterday, exactly as they were at the start of the weekend. So the BOP ballast on the cars, 25 kilograms for Audi, nothing on the BMWs, so they're exactly the same as they were. The Ferraris are a bit lighter than they were yesterday. They had 25 kilograms on board for the race yesterday. It's down to 20 now, so they're 5 kilograms lighter. The Porsches are 5 kilograms lighter as well. Porsches, singular Porsches, isn't it? 'Cause there's only one left, which is going to be Christian Engelhardt. So that's got 0 ballast on now, 5 kilograms lighter than yesterday. The Lamborghini is a bit lighter as well. That's got 40 kilograms of BOP ballast instead of 45, so that's 5 kilograms lighter. And the Mercedes, which is the key one here, are a bit heavier. They've been increased from 15 to 20 kilograms of BOP ballast. So Lucas Auer and the other Mercedes drivers will have slightly heavier cars with 5 kilograms of BOP ballast on board for this qualifying session. Then in the race, the top 3 from yesterday get the success ballast, not in qualifying, but the race. So Lucas Auer will have another 25 kilograms of success ballast on board, which means in total his car is going to be 30 kilograms heavier than it was yesterday when we get to the race. Sheldon van der Linde, who you ride on board with now, the championship leader, he finished second, so he'll in the race have 15 kilograms of success ballast on board. And Marco Wittmann, who got his second podium of the season yesterday in the Volkenhorst Motorsport BMW, will have 5 kilograms of success ballast on board his car. And just to go back to the overnight investigation into the pit stops which happened for Dev Gore and actually Alessio Deleda and Leon Kohler did the same thing. They pitted before the restart after the red flags. They came in, we were all concentrating, the cameras were concentrating as you'd expect on the restart. And then we wait for Dev Gore to come in and realise he'd been in already before the race had started, and that was under investigation, but no further action has been taken. It's a bit of a grey area, so it came back, the notification from the DTM, and it said basically, we looked into it, but because the race director's instruction could have been misunderstood over the radio, then no further action has been taken. And then they've updated the supplementary regulations for the race today by adding another couple of paragraphs in which basically say, you know, the race director at certain points can deem that the pit lane will and should be closed, and you can only go in that pit lane if you've got obvious damage to the car. And if that's the case, they'll put a message on the screen saying pit lane closed. So it's a bit of a grey area, but the team Rosberg took full advantage, and Dev Gore genuinely led the race for a number of laps before being caught on tyres which were fading towards the end of the race, and ended up in 4th place. That's the second time this year that Dev Gore and the Team Rosberg outfit have been smart on their feet, thinking of a different strategy. Got him a podium at Imola and got him a 4th place finish yesterday. So, qualifying times yesterday, we'll see what the track comparison is, but yesterday Lucas Auer got pole position with a time of 1 minute 36.479 seconds. And just to give you an idea of the sector times, yesterday Sector 1, the best time was 20.9 seconds, Sector 2, 44.8, Sector 3, 30.3. So you want to be sub 21 seconds and sub 45 seconds on Sectors 1 and 2 if you're going to match the sort of times that we saw in yesterday's session. So 20 cars have gone out onto the circuit. We are also, I gave you the 6 that I knew would definitely be missing, and the other one that's going to be missing is the Lamborghini of Rolf Inaischen, who we know he's okay and had his hospital checks, but he's not going to be able to race in this one. So 20 cars instead to 27, as Marius Zug takes provisional pole position with a 1 minute 37.606 second lap. Clement Schmidt goes quickly early on as well with a 1:37.870. So there's Marius with his American football special livery on the car this weekend at the end of his first season. He was impressive here in pre-season testing at Hockenheim right at the start of the year, 6 or 7 months ago, and was at the top of the times. Can he do something similar in this final weekend of the season and get his first championship point? We saw Maximilian Buch get his first championship point yesterday with a 10th place finish for Muka Motorsports. Congratulations to them. Worked hard for that championship point. We'll see how they get on today, what will be a less crowded racetrack, and hopefully, in terms of incidents, a less eventful race than we had yesterday. But in terms of the championship fight, hopefully it's going to be an absolute cracker. There is Dev Gore then, fresh off the back of that 4th place finish yesterday. But here is Lucas Auer starting to push on now. His last lap was his best so far, 1:38.8. Currently in 10th place. It might take a little bit longer to get the tyres up to temperature. We've got René Rast up and see coming into the pits already. He set the 3rd fastest time so far with a 1:38.2. You wouldn't expect them to come in this early normally. Do a few more laps than this before coming in, but maybe they're just finding that the track is that bit cooler, that bit less grippy than they expected, and maybe tweaking the setup a bit. Kelvin van der Linde, Riccardo Feller and Mirko Bortolotti all in the pits as well, and they haven't yet set lap times, nor is Dev Gore, but we've seen him out on track now. So Marius Zug the quickest of all. Marco Wittmann is second quickest. Clement Schmidt just pips him to go provisionally onto the front row of the grid. So 1:37.697, just 91 thousandths of a second behind Marius Zug. So Audi leading, Lamborghini second, BMW third, with the 2-time champion Marco Wittmann on a 1:37.816, and his last lap was a 1:37.811, slightly quicker, but he lost the time through track limits. Still wouldn't have made any difference, he'd have still been 3rd. So that's put René Rast out of 4th. Nico Muller is in 5th place, but Nico's got a 2-place grid penalty for the race later on, and this is because he's had to take an extra joker tyre, what's called a joker tyre. So there's an allocation of tyres for each weekend and for the season, and you can have 2 joker tyres there to replace damaged tyres effectively. You've got 2 per season as an allowance, but he's had to get a 3rd tyre in because of damage to a spare tyre. So the rule for that is that you then take a 2-place grid drop. So wherever Nico qualifies, will be 2 places lower down. So a relatively calm start to the session. Won't stay like this. Lucas Auer on the radio with a super slow-mo of Sparks trailing from the back of the Mercedes. Saw him this morning and wished him luck and congratulated him for the race result yesterday, and he looked relaxed. He just come off the back of a pretty long interview with German television, but he looked happy, chilled, relaxed, but there'll be nerves, no doubt about it. Sheldon van der Linde, by his own admission, was a bit down after he got that penalty from qualifying yesterday. Not to do with his driving or anything like that, just to do with the fact that the team had left the tyres on the car before qualifying in the time where you're not allowed to do so. Just a bit late finishing their pit stop practice. So he and Thomas Preining had that 10-place grid drop. So did Dennis Olsen. He said, I was a bit down by own admission, but I managed to get myself up again, positive, and by the time he got to the grid, he was all smiles again. He's got mom and dad have come from South Africa to support him as well. I heard the initial flight was cancelled, so it was a bit of an effort to get here, but they managed to get here for the race yesterday. Sean van der Linde himself, a former South African touring car champion, and Monberny here to watch, they hope, their son be crowned DTM champion for the first time. Lucas Auer and René Rast and potentially Mirko Bortolotti staying in his way. Bortolotti, not for the first time this season, has opted to sit out the first part of qualifying. Riccardo Feller likewise, and Kelvin van der Linde. Actually, they're the 3 drivers that have done this more than anybody else. They've let everybody else clear up the track, They've not bothered going out for the first 10 minutes of qualifying, and the risk then is that you've only got, well, 9 minutes or so to try and set a time. So if you get held up or if you get the lap wrong, there's not much leeway. And B, if you go out of sync with everybody else, and you might go up to the top of the times, but they're then going out later in the session than you, and they have the best of the track. So it's a brave decision, but Kelvin van der Linde, Ricardo Feller, and most notably Mirko Bortolotti trying to do it. Bortolotti has to get pole position with Sheldon van der Linde out of the top 3 to stay in the championship fight. So for now, Sheldon van der Linde is in the best position of the top 2 of the championship. He's 6th. Lucas Auer is 11th in this session at the moment. René Rast, who has to play catch-up to both of them, is 4th quickest as it stands. There is Mirko Bortolotti, looking focused but looking calm as ever. And René Rast is about to rejoin the action, being pushed out of the garage here. Now he'd love to bag 3 points here and try to get himself a very useful pole position going into the race later on. You feel he probably has to try and win the race. 21 points is still a big gap to try and close up, especially if he doesn't score any points and get into the top 3 in this qualifying session. And René Rast so far this year has been excellent in qualifying. He's had 3 pole positions, more than anybody else.
So you can start the engine in the next 20 seconds, 20 to 25 seconds we will also go out.
And he's averaged 7th on the grid. He scored 11 points in championship qualifying sessions, which have been extremely useful points. So a 4th pole position would be handy. You saw Ricardo Feller there in the background is ready to go as well.
And we can go.
So Fraga, Muller go out, and following them closely is René Rast. Ricardo Feller is about to go on track for the first time in the session, but not just yet. Playing a bit of a waiting game here. This is going to be a frenetic 7.5 minutes. Here he goes then, Ricardo Feller out, and so too Kelvin van der Linde for the first time, and just going to get in front of Dev Gore, who has to ease off the gas and make sure the other Audi gets out in front of him without there being any contact. And then out comes the number 10 car of Leon Kohler, and there goes Sheldon van der Linde back on track. Alicia De Leyder is already on track. Technical problem with the car yesterday, costing him potentially his first points of the season. There he is, flashing past through turn 1, and Lucas Auer is about to go out as well.
Okay, Lucky, engine on. And you can go.
Right, so at the moment, 1:37.6 is the fastest time that we've had. That is 1.2 seconds slower than qualifying and pole position yesterday. More to come, or is the track just not up to it so far with these lower track temperatures? We'll find out. I bet they'll go quicker though. Sometimes they don't manage to squeeze a bit more time out of the cars during the last 2 or 3 minutes of the session, but I think it might just be different in this session. But for now, Marius Sugg proudly sits atop the times with the fastest time from the first half of the session, at 1:37.606. Clement Schmidt second. It'll be easily both of their best qualifyings in DTM. Marco Wittmann has said it's been a tough year, but the car felt great yesterday. We potentially could have got the race win, and he said, and that's what I'll be going for today, the race victory. No doubts about that for Marco. Philip Eng with work to do as well. He's back in 16th place at the moment, and Sheldon van der Linde could do with his teammate up there to give him a bit of support during the race. Philip was really pleased to help take the team's championship yesterday for Schubert Motorsport. Torsten Schubert delighted with the team's efforts, and to get the BMW M4 GT in its first season of DTM competition to a team's title was excellent. First time a BMW team has taken the team's championship since 2016. Marco Wittmann picked up his 2nd championship title. He also paid credit to the team. There he is in the background, Philip Eng. He said the team did a fantastic job to get my car fixed yesterday during the red flag period, because there was a lot of damage to it. He was involved in the earlier incident on the restart, not the huge crash, but the one before it, which was big enough in itself, about half a lap earlier. And he said even the boss, Torsten Schubert, was working on the car trying to get it fixed. He said, and that's what makes this a great team, and that's why we deserve the team's championship. He was under investigation for his lunge down the inside at this corner of the hairpin yesterday, which he tried to get past 2 drivers and then he ended up getting past one and sort of there was no contact, but Lucas Stoltz had to dive out of the way with this blue BMW that was coming up the inside. So it was looked at, but there was no further action. Philip was asked to explain his actions and said, look, there was a gap there, I went for it, and, you know, no contact was made and the officials accepted that, so there's no penalty for him. And a useful job he did yesterday, as I say, for the team. Right then, Marius Sug's time. Is that going to be beaten? Not much time left to find out. 1 minute 37.606. 4 minutes for somebody to try and go quicker than that. But Ricardo Feller is on a mission. He's just at the absolute best final sector. Sorry, and so 143.856 suggests he's now coming out of that last sector, going to get a good first sector, got good exit speed. René Rast has just set the absolute best first sector for now, though, with a 21.147. So Rast goes quickest in sector 1. Keep an eye on Feller as well, because, yes, he's 19th out of 20 at the moment, but his last sector on the last lap was mega, and he's put a good first sector in as well, 21.2. So too as, sorry, 21.1. So too has Kelvin van der Linde, slightly slower, 22.2. So they're both going to rocket up the order, the AB Sportsline drivers. But René Rast is the one slightly quicker than everybody through that first sector for now. You're right on board with him now. Second sector is the key one. That's the longest. 45.017 is Clement Schmidt's sector 2 time. He's just set the absolute best second sector. That's just been beaten by Felipe Fraga in the Ferrari, who also did a 21.1 in the first sector, and a 44.9 now. The first driver to dip beneath the 45-second barrier in sector 2 is Felipe Fraga. So way down the order at the moment, but the Red Bull AF Corsa Sol Ferrari in this session is going to push right up the order, and Bortolotti has done a 21.046 in the first sector, and his first proper lap of the session with less than 3 minutes to go as he guns for pole position here to try to keep himself in the fight. Fraga's gone quickest, though, with the 136.625 for now, and the first driver easily into the 136s. Now that's only a couple of tenths of a second away from what we saw yesterday. So Rast goes second, Schmidt is down to third, Zug is down to fourth place, and we got a red flag. Somebody's had an off. So red flag with 2 minutes to go, and it's Felipe Fraga who's gone off just after setting the fastest time of the session. And that will affect things because the clock will stop. Whether it'll restart or not, we don't know. But Felipe, if you cause a red flag, you lose your best time of the session. Well, his best time of the session is one good lap, really, which is put him on pole. And if that's taken away from him, it will then become, if we don't get any more running, René Rast that gets the pole position. And crucially, the 3 championship points. It's also rather ruined the efforts of Kelvin van der Linde and Ricardo Feller, and, of course, Mirko Bortolotti, who had yet to put a lap time in. Bortolotti was flying. He'd set the absolute best first sector. He'd set a personal best second sector, which I know he's not saying much because it was his first lap, but it was only a fraction, half a tenth slower than the best second sector time that Fraga had just set. So he was on for certainly a front row, maybe a pole position, Bortolotti, which is what he needed to keep his championship alive. And it doesn't look like he's going to get the chance to do that now. So relief that Felipe is out of the car and okay. But what drama with 2 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock. No message on the screen yet to say that we're not going to get underway. But just to reiterate, if a driver in qualifying causes a red flag or otherwise interferes with qualifying, then their best timed lap of the session is disallowed. Oh, just got ragged on the curbs there and just couldn't hold the back end of the Ferrari into the barrier as it went. See it from a different angle here. So Felipe's time will be taken away from him. He's definitely caused the red flag, and that will put, for now, René Rast onto pole position. And if that's the case, as it stands, he'd be 18 points behind, not 21 points behind going into the first race. There's not going to be a restart, we're told. Session will not restart. So that has mixed things up massively here, and that's the risk with leaving it late.
Clement Schmidt, Marius Zug, Wittmann on 5, Nico Müller on 6.
Team radio for Sheldon van der Linde. Torsten Schubert, the team, can't believe it, but it's not too bad for him. 7th, but it'll become 6th because of Felipe Fraga at the top of the times, having that time taken away from him. So René Rast should move up to first. Clement Schmidt will start second on the grid. Marius Zug is going to start third on the grid. Marco Wittmann fourth. Nico Muller would be fifth, but he's got a two-place grid penalty. So actually Sheldon van der Linde, by my maths, is going to be fifth on the grid. And then it'll be Dev Gore sixth. Great weekend it's turning into for Dev. Then it'll be Nico Muller with the grid penalty, seventh. Engelhardt eighth. Gotts ninth. Kohler 10th. And Lucas Auer 11th. Not great news.
So you come to the box and we push you back on the wheels. Don't forget the scale. Session will not be resumed. You are P12. P12. So it's Fraga P1, Rast, Schmidt, Zug, Wittmann, Muller, Sheldon, Gore, Engelhardt, Gotts, Kohler, and you.
It's exactly what Lucas Auer thought of that news. Not happy. The old steering wheel's taking a bit of a pounding. And Lucas Auer wasn't one of the drivers that left it until the last 10 minutes to go out. He was out in the first part of the session, but he couldn't quite get the car working. So the red flag with 2 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock is going to give us a mixed grid. Say Felipe Fraga, top of the times. He just set the provisional pole time, but I don't think that's going to count. However, thinking about it, René Rast, will he get the 3 points or will he get 2? Because Felipe effectively should have that time taken away from him. It should be the 3. Either way, he's the only one of the championship contenders to score points, to get into the top 3, what he needed. Slightly reflective about that. I don't know if he thinks it's good news or bad news. Probably pretty happy, I would say. But for Mirko Bortolotti, huge frustration because he now cannot win the championship title. He had to get pole and he needed Sheldon van der Linde not to be in the top 3, and only one of those things has happened. And Mirko is going to have to be on a mission. 18th on the grid, or 18th in the session. It's going to be almost at the back of the field. So too Kelvin van der Linde, and so too Ricardo Feller, who never got the chance to put in a proper flying lap. All of them were on good laps as well. That would have put them near the top of the times, particularly Bortolotti. So get a replay of, this is a moment for René Rast running out wide. Struggling with grip, aren't they? Understeering on these cooler conditions today. But not too bad for Sheldon van der Linde. And he's ahead of his nearest rival in the points, Lucas Auer. 7th quickest, Auer 12th quickest, so 5 places between them. And there, the timing screen confirms all I was saying in that Fraga's time has been taken away from him because of the red flag. So René Rast confirmed as pole position for the 4th time this season. 3 points, 18 adrift now. Clement Schmidt will start on the front row of the grid. Easily his best qualifying of the year so far. Marius Zug, best qualifying of the year so far. He's going to start the race in 3rd place. And then Marco Wittmann will be 4th. Nico Muller's qualified 5th, but a 2-place grid penalty. So Sheldon van der Linde will start 5th. Dev Gore 6th. Nico Muller 7th, Christian Engelhardt 8th, Maxi Gotts 9th, Leon Kohler in 10th, Lucas Auer 11th, Maro Engel in 12th, Lucas Stotz 13th, Alessio De Leda 14th, Felipe Fraga 15th, now that his best lap's been taken away from him, Philip Eng back in 16th, Maxi Buch in 17th, Mirko Bortolotti 18th, Kelvin van der Linde 19th, and Ricardo Feller 20th. So a incredibly useful 3 points, added to the fact that neither of the other 2 championship contenders that now remain have scored points in that one. So René Rast pretty pleased with that. He struggled with the car yesterday, so it was a shame the car just wasn't quite up to it in qualifying. They weren't happy with the BOP. That hasn't changed for them. It's changed slightly, particularly for the Mercedes. And remember, René didn't get in the top 3 yesterday, so they'll have no success ballast in the race. So their confirmation, the gap at the top stays at just 2 points, with neither Sheldon nor Lukey scoring any points. But René Rast gets that little bit closer to them. 26 points available. 18 points between the top 3 in the championship, but only 2 points between the top 2 in the championship. It is essentially going to be whichever of the 2 finishes higher up, depending on what René Rast does. René Rast wins the race, and there, out of the top 4 or 5, then things completely change. But well done to Clement Schmidt, starting on the front row of the grid for the first time in the DTM. His best previous qualifying was a 4th place, and that was back in the 3rd weekend of the season at Imola. Marius Zug has qualified third and picked up his first championship point in DTM with that. So well done to Marius. His best previous qualifying was 14th at Portimao, the very first weekend of the season. So it's another single car team, that Attempto Racing, and well done to the team and Marius, who kept on working hard all season long. And you see this, don't you? In the last race of a series, normally you get some different results thrown up, and that's exactly what we've had so far in this qualifying session. So a super slow-mo of René Rast confirmed then with that pole time of 1 minute 36.817 in the end, because others didn't get the chance, and because Felipe Fraga's lap time was taken away. He was the only one that got into the 1 minute 36s, a 1:36.8 though, still 4/10 slower than yesterday's pole time due to the track conditions. And the three-time champion keeps pushing on. He's third in the championship. He's never finished lower than second in the championship in all his attempts. 3 times a champion, and as I've said earlier on in the weekend, on 2 of those occasions he wrapped up the title in the very last race of the season, and both times that last race of the season was here at Hockenheim. So René Rast and Team Alps will celebrate that. We've also got to keep an eye, as well as the drivers' standings, on the manufacturers' standings, which is 8 points between Mercedes and Audi. That is wide open going into the final race of the season. And their confirmation on the screen of your top 10 from the final qualifying session of the season. René Rast will end up with more pole positions and more qualifying points, 14 points now from qualifying, than anybody else has managed this season. The really frustrated drivers in all of this: Lucas Auer, who's going to start back in 11th, and of course the Mirko Bortolotti, who is now effectively mathematically out of the championship fight. But it should be fun to watch, shouldn't it? We're going to see Mirko Bortolotti, Kelvin van der Linde and Ricardo Feller all coming from the back of the grid, and it should be fun to watch because they're now not worried about championship points. So more ups and downs in the season. Every time something goes right for a driver, it goes wrong next time out. Every time something goes wrong, it goes right the next time. It's you've got to try and deal with these roller coasters, and Lukey will not be out of it just yet. Please do join us for the race later on this afternoon. From me, Chris Hartley, in the commentary box. That's it. Let's head back down to the pit lane and Verena.
And here I've got René Rast, the pole setter, another unpredictable qualifying, and I mean, you've just got to be absolutely thrilled about this.
I cannot believe it, to be honest. I mean, we were, hoping for a miracle. It happened this morning. We are on pole position, and the other competitors are not in the top 5, so obviously that we were hoping for. Now we need to focus on our race. I think we have a good race car for today, I hope. But still, lots of things have to happen. I still have to win the race. Second place will not be enough, because if I finish second and Sheldon has no points, we are still points equal, and he has more victories. So I have to win the race. That's the ultimate goal. But we're on pole position, so it's the best position we can have for the race.
You got to push really hard. Thank you so much, René. Here's your commentator.
Hello again. You are going to have to listen to me again after all. So, yes, just a wrap up there. Great to hear from René Rast. We needed a miracle. We got one, he said. So, René Rast there. Super slow-mos of the driver that gets 4 pole positions for the season. He's only 1 pole position away from equaling the record number of poles in DTM now. And well done as well to Marius Zug, who qualifies in the top 3 for the first time in his first season. The 19-year-old picks up his first DTM championship point. He's going to line up 3rd on the grid for what's going to be a very mixed-up grid for the 16th and final round of DTM 2022. Clement Schmidt with his first front row start as well in the Lamborghini. What can he do? And then, of course, René Rast, the driver, still in with a shout at the championship title. He's the one that's going to start on pole position for round 16 later on today. Do join us for the action. Let's head back now then down to Verena Reed.
What a crazy qualifying, and once again it just shows how unpredictable this season is. It's just absolutely exciting, and we're looking forward to the race later on, because today we will finally reign the champion 2022. Let's see who it will be. So you don't want to miss the last race of the season. See you later, and we can't wait for it. So bye-bye.